Asperger's syndrome sits on the autistic spectrum. It's on that continuum. It has common characteristics with autism. The triad of impairments is there. An impairment in social interaction, verbal and non-verbal communication, an impairment of flexible thinking and social imagination. People with Asperger's syndrome don't necessarily have an accompanying learning disability and will have a normal IQ. In fact, some people with Asperger's syndrome have a higher than average IQ and can be very intelligent. Social contact, there's a difference here with autism in that often there is a want to have social contact. They're desperate to be involved, but they don't know how. Asperger's syndrome has a genetic base, although this is still an area of research and huge debate. Students with Asperger's syndrome can appear to have fantastic communication skills. Their language can be quite sophisticated. It can appear quite pedantic. This can mask, at times, a lack of understanding. I vividly remember a situation in a primary class a long time ago with a student called James. We were doing a comprehension activity. James was listening on the headphones. What he had to do was listen to some statements and then he had to tick a box. James was a student who was very bright. He was just on the verge to returning to a mainstream school. The first couple of questions were fine. Now I could see that James was beginning to get upset, and then all of a sudden, apparently out of nowhere, the tape recorder flew across the room, closely followed by the chair and the table and James's next door neighbour. James then started to run round and round the room. He was completely beside himself. We were looking at the situation, first off, just trying to get James calm, but also thinking, what had happened? Where had this come from? It took us an hour to get James calmed down. He still couldn't explain to me what it was that had upset him. I then went and did what I should have done before I even started the activity. I listened to the tape. When I played the tape, the instructions on the tape said, listen to the following statements, then tick the right box. What James had heard was the right box. What the tape should have said was the correct box. The first couple of statements, it was fine. It so happened that the right box was the correct answer. But on the third statement, James was trapped. He knew that the correct answer was the left box, but the instructions had told him to tick the right box. What should he do? James could not process that, so James exploded. From my point of view, I could have avoided that whole situation from happening had I listened to the tape. But what we also needed to do was teach James strategies for what he's going to do when those kind of situations arise, which they will do. Students with Asperger's will find it incredibly difficult to interpret gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice, and consequently they'll have problems with social situations. Social games are very difficult. I worked with a youngster called Peter. We used to go to a soft play and he would run round, he'd play in there, he'd get rid of a lot of his energy. One day he stood watching two other boys who were throwing soft bricks at each other. One of them hit the other one in the face with a brick and they both burst into peals of laughter. Peter looked at me very confused. He said, Chris, I don't understand. He's just thrown a brick at that boy, but he's laughing. Why is that funny? So I explained to him, they're soft bricks, it's a game, one person throws it, the other one finds it funny. Teach me how to find that funny, Chris, was his response. So we spent the afternoon role-playing. We spent the afternoon playing the game. I taught Peter how to find having soft bricks thrown at him funny. These are the kind of things that students with Asperger's, adults with Asperger's, will have to learn. They'll have to learn how to manage social situations. They'll take comments very literally. Sarcasm and irony mean nothing. it can lead to enormous misunderstandings. The phrases that we use, common in our language, pull your socks up, or it's raining cats and dogs, all that will bring is a panicked look out of the window to see if actually the cats and dogs really are on their way down. We have so many unwritten social rules in our society. When it's okay to touch someone, when it's not okay. No one has these as a manual. No one's written these down. We just pick them up. Students with Asperger's won't pick them up. We need to teach these explicitly. We need to explain them. A crucial difference often between students with autism and students with Asperger's is they're aware that they're different. They know that there is something wrong or something different about the way they view the world. That's very, very challenging. And often students in their teens or older will have depressive episodes because they're dealing with those thoughts and those feelings. Social situations for students with Asperger's, even the most simple, can be complex. Just take queuing. You and I know when we go to a cafeteria, we see a line of people, we stand at the back, we take it in turns, we wait, when we get to the front, we buy our food. The student with Asperger's would think nothing of going straight to the front of the line, getting their food and going. It's simple, that's how you get your food. This is one of the times when we need to give someone else's behaviour as a model. When we can say to John, John, look, can you see how Callum waits, he lines up, he takes his turn, then he gets his food. Social stories can be a huge help here. So we actually take students through situations and they can practice them. By far the best way that we can help someone with Asperger's though is to get into their way of thinking. Often it will actually be a case of talking to them about how they perceive the world, how they see things, how they understand things. There's a whole raft of books written by adults with Asperger's about how it feels, about how they perceive the world. If we can understand that, if we can understand it from their point of view, drop our own notions of normality, then we can move a step forward to making their environment one that they can succeed in.